Hello. If you're watching this video, it's because you're taking the child and adolescent needs and strengths CANS training online. And what you have in front of you is the actual CANS form. The video clips that you're going to be watching are going to show you the definitions of the scoring for the different items in each one of the domains. We'll start first with the demographics at the very top of the boxes. Is this an initial CANS, 6-month or discharge? What is today's date? The child's name, the ID, date of birth, sex, race, ethnicity, your name, your signature. Where is the child currently placed? Juvenile hall, boys camp. What is the planned permanent residential setting of the child, even if the child is placed temporarily somewhere? Is the child on probation, out of custody? Is the child being seen at the ADMHS clinic? And who is the caregiver at this permanent residential setting, which is not juvenile hall or boys camp? Who is the caregiver? All right, so let's start with the first domain on the left, the life domain functioning, and you don't need to go in order. You can complete different domains at different times according to the information you have. For example, you may have all the information you need for the school domain or for the child emotional behavioral needs domain, but you may need some information about the caregiver, for example. You haven't interviewed the parents yet. So you can start completing the domains that you know information about, or even items in the domains you have information about. So this video clip will navigate you through the life domain functioning. Remember that most of the items in the CANS correspond to the last 30 days. And let's start with family. Family. A 0, the child is doing well in relationships with family members. A 1, the child is doing adequately in relationships with family members, although some problems may exist. For example, some family members may have some problems in their relationship with the child. A 2, the child is having moderate problem with parents, siblings, and or other family members. There's frequent arguing, difficulties in maintaining any positive relationships may be observed. A 3, the child is having severe problems with parents, siblings, and or other family members, and this would include problems of domestic violence, constant arguing, etc. Living situation. Living situation. In the living situation, it's different from, okay, let's have it here. The living situation is different from the family in that when we look at family, we look at relationships. In living situation, we look at the functioning of the child in the current living environment. So 0 is no evidence of problem with functioning in current living environment. In 1, there are mild problems. In 1, there are mild problems with functioning in current living environment. The caregivers are concerned about the child's behavior at home. In 2, there are moderate to severe problems with functioning in the current living environment. The child has difficulties maintaining his behavior in this setting, creating significant problems for others in the residence. In 3, there's profound problems with functioning in the current living situation. The child is at immediate risk of being removed from living situation due to his behaviors. All right. Sleep. In sleep, and remember, we're always talking about past 30 days. So it's not how the child was sleeping last year or at the beginning of the academic year, 6 months ago. No, it is in the past 30 days. 0, the child gets a full night's sleep each night. In 1, the child has some problem sleeping. Generally, the child gets a full night's sleep, but at least once a week, problems arise. It may include occasional wakening or bedwetting or nightmares. Remember that. In 2, the child is having problems with sleep. Sleep is often disrupted, and the child seldom obtains a full night of sleep. In 3, the child is generally sleep deprived. Sleeping is difficult for the child, and the child is not able to get a full night's sleep. Okay, let's look at social functioning. In social functioning, in 0, the child has positive social relationships. In 1, child is having minor problems, social relationships. In 2, child is having some moderate problems with his social relationships, and you can tell already that 2 uses language such as moderate. 3, the child is experiencing severe disruptions in his social relationships, and 3 generally tends to use language such as severe, right? Okay. Sexual development. This is interesting. It's an interesting item. Sexual development. 0. No evidence of any problem with sexual development. 1. Mild to moderate problems with sexual development may include concerns about sexual identity or anxiety about the reactions of others. 2. Significant problems with sexual development may include multiple and/or older partners or high-risk sexual behaviors. And 3. Profound problems with sexual development. This level could include prostitution, very frequent risky sexual behavior, or sexual aggression. Okay. Recreational. In recreational, in 0, the child has and enjoys positive recreational activities on an ongoing basis. In 1, the child is doing adequately with recreational activities, although some problems may exist. In 2, the child is having moderate problems with recreational activities. Child may experience some problems with effective use of leisure time. And in 3, the child has no access to or interest in recreational activities. Note that this item in the life domain talks about how the child uses leisure time for recreation, right? Okay. Developmental. This is the first item that we see where there are shaded areas, and this means that if the child scores either 1, 2, or 3, we're going to turn the form over and complete the supplemental module. So 0 means child has no problems in cognitive, communication, social, or motor development. 1, there are some concerns that the child may have a low IQ or possible delay in communication, social, emotional, or motor development. In 2, the child has mild mental retardation and/or developmental delays in 1 or more areas, such as communication, social, emotional, motor. And in 3, the child has moderate or profound mental retardation and/or severe delays in multiple areas of development. So let's imagine that the child did score a 1, a 2, or a 3. And so we would go to the back of the form and complete the module on developmental needs. So for sake of clarity, I'm going to show the module on the back of the form. And here it is. Developmental needs. Here it is. Cognitive, social, emotional, self-care, daily living. And this is the scoring for cognitive. 0. Child intellectual functioning appears to be in normal range. No reason to believe that the child has any problems with intellectual functioning. In 1, the IQ is low, between 70 to 85, or has identified learning challenges, and these learning challenges can be known through the individualized educational plan or through the parents. In 2, the child has mild mental retardation, that is IQ between 55 and 70. And in 3, child has moderate to profound mental retardation, IQ is less than 55. In the social emotional item of the developmental needs module, the items or sub-items are 0. Child social interactions and emotional responses appear within normal range. 1. There are some concerns that the child's social interactions and emotional responses are not developing normally. In 2, there's a clear evidence of impaired social interactions, he doesn't react, right? The child fails to develop reaction to peers, or lacks emotional reciprocity, doesn't express empathy, does not express pleasure when in the company of peers, doesn't express curiosity for other people, or the child may be expressing repetitive or stereotype patterns of behaviors or interests. Children who are obsessed with trains or certain toys or certain, um, even certain characters of books or TV. Or they may have these kinds of repetitive behaviors such as hand flapping. In 3, there's clear evidence of severely impaired social interactions, lack of emotional reciprocity, and/or repetitive stereotype patterns of behaviors or interests to the degree that the child is unable to participate in a wide range of age-appropriate activities and settings. And finally, the last item in the Developmental Needs supplemental module is self-care daily living. Self-care daily living. In 0, the child's self-care and daily living skills appear developmentally appropriate. There's no reason to believe that the child has any problems performing daily living skills. In 1, the child requires verbal prompting on self-care tasks or daily living skills like, oh, did you blah 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 blah, did you remember to, or let's now, etc. In 2, the child requires assistance like physical prompting, handing the toothbrush to the child, on self-care tasks or attendant care. On one self-care task, or not one already qualifies for 2. And in 3, the child requires attendant care on more than one of the self-care tasks. All right. And the self-care tasks are eating, bathing, dressing, and toileting, both for 2 and for 3. All right. So now we return to the front of the cans, back to the life domain functioning, and we are in the communication item. The communication item, at a 0, the child's receptive and expressive communication appears developmentally appropriate. There's no reason to believe that the child has any problems communicating. At 1, the child has receptive communication skills, but limited expressive communication skills. Right? So having receptive communication skills seems to be more important, and the child would still be a 1 if the receptive skills are okay, but the expressive communication skills may be limited. At 2, both receptive and expressive communication skills are limited, and in 3, the child is unable to communicate. The next item of the life domain functioning is judgment. In 0, there's no evidence of problem with judgment or with poor decision making that results in harm to the development or the well-being of the child. In 1, there's a history of problems with judgment in which the child makes decisions that are in some way harmful for his development and or for the well-being. For example, a child who has a history of hanging out with other children who shoplift. Right? In 2, there's problems with judgment in which the child makes decisions that are in some way harmful to his development or well-being. And in 3, problems with judgment that place the child at risk of significant physical harm. Right. Next item is acculturation. In acculturation, in 0, the child and family are acculturated, no issues. In 1, the child and family have some cultural differences from their primary environment that have created challenges in the past or might lead to future challenges. I believe that there's an or missing here. It's the child and or family have some cultural differences from their primary environment that have created challenges in the past or might lead to future challenges. In 2, the child and or significant family members have notable cultural differences from the primary environment that currently lead to functional problems. And in 3, the child and or significant family members have notable cultural differences with their primary environment that are causing profound difficulties for the child and or family. Legal, piece of cake for you. The child has no known legal difficulties in 0. In 1, the child has a history of legal problems but currently is not involved with the legal system. In 2, the child has some legal problems and is currently involved in the legal system. And in 3, the child has serious current or pending legal difficulties that place him at risk for a court-ordered out-of-home placement. Medical and physical health are interesting in terms of the difference between the two. In the medical item, in 0, the child is healthy. In 1, the child has some medical problems that require medical treatment. In 2, the child has chronic illness that requires ongoing medical interventions. And in 3, the child has life-threatening illness or medical condition. So notice the difference between medical and physical health. Physical health is more related to something like physical limitations or disabilities. So let's see. In 0, the child has no physical limitations. In 1, the child has some physical condition that places mild limitation on activities. Conditions such as impaired hearing or vision would be rated here. We rate here treatable medical conditions that result in physical limitations like asthma. In 2, the physical conditions notably impact activities. There are sensory disorders like blindness, deafness, or significant motor difficulties. In 3, the child has severe physical limitations due to multiple physical conditions. All right. So the previous to last in this domain is daily functioning. And daily functioning is scored like this. The child demonstrates age-appropriate or advanced self-care skills. It's a 0. I mean, he relies on others as expected, right, for his age. In 1, the child shows mild or occasional problems in self-care skills, but is generally self-reliant. In 2, the child demonstrates moderate or routine problems in self-care skills and relies on others for help more than is expected for his age. In 3, the child shows severe or almost constant problems in self-care skills and relies on others for help much more than is expected for his age. And the last item in life domain functioning is independent living. In independent living, the child is maturing at an age or advanced phase to eventually live on his own. There's no evidence of deficits in learning independent living skills at this time. In 1, the child is somewhat delayed acquiring independent living skills and or delayed in demonstrating age-appropriate independent living skills. Some problems exist in maintaining reasonable cleanliness, diet, finances, or time management, and the child needs to learn additional independent living skills. In 2, the child is moderately delayed in acquiring information about independent living skills and or moderately delayed in demonstrating those skills. There are notable problems in maintaining reasonable cleanliness, diet, finances, time management, etc. And in 3, the child is clearly delayed in acquiring information about independent living skills or is clearly not demonstrating those skills. Given his current age and impairments, the child will almost certainly need a structured and supervised living environment in young adulthood. Very well, so we have completed all the items in the life domain functioning, and in the next video clips, as you keep going with the different slides on the online training, you will have the last 5 domains of the CANS. You will be exposed to the last 5 domains of the CANS.